G'day to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. I'm at Northmead and about to go on a bushwalk, and today I'm going to go for a walk. I might just head down this way. I haven't been down this way before, so let me see where this leads us. And in our usual fashion, what I'm going to do is do a walk and talk. And today's episode is going to be a little bit different to the ones that we normally do. It's going to be one based on science. And I think I really like this one here because I must have missed this lesson at school because it is fascinating, and I wasn't aware that so much can be found and determined from a weather perspective by just observing the conditions around you. I guess for most of my life I've depended on the weather report, the weatherman or weather woman to give me a weather report, but this book entitled The Secret World of Weather by Tristran Gooley gives us a different perspective and gives us something to think about and empowers us to be our own weatherman or weather woman or weather person. So the author kicks off the book with an observation where he says that randomness is not a great survival strategy, so it's rare in nature for things to happen randomly. I remember some other person once saying that the future never presents itself unannounced. And similarly, the author here, from a scientific perspective, teaches us or presents to us a view that the weather can be, accurately gauged once you know which clues to look for. Even though we don't have all the accessories and weather balloons and all of those things available to us, it's important to understand that by looking up into the sky, by observing the environment around us, you can get a pretty good clue as to what's going on, or more importantly, what's about to happen. So the author then talks a little bit about weather forecasters and how it's usually hit or miss, and the reasons why it's hit or miss. Because he says that weather forecasts don't work because they are based on a larger area. The weather forecast is a general sort of forecast that is provided, and it's general because it's based on a larger area, because there's a larger audience that it needs to address. But the weather patterns that we individually face are determined on a local basis. So it makes pretty much sense, doesn't it? Because the weather doesn't happen the same everywhere at the same time, a weather forecast is just an assumption or an approximation of what may happen across the board. But it may or it may not occur depending on where you are. For a number of years, I've noticed that when I'm working in a particular location, storm activity is heading our way, and you can see it on the radar. But when it gets close to that particular location, around Redfern I'm mentioning now, all of a sudden the weather pattern or the clouds or the weather front would split and just move around without impacting the particular area that I was in. But in the city, which is only a few kilometres away, it'd be raining cats and dogs. And where I was, it was not raining at all. So it's really interesting to observe that. But with this lesson today, I'm in a position to understand why the weather forecasts aren't always on the money. So the author then tells us and provides some scientific background here, saying that we can use clues to figure out what is going to happen or what is going on in your microclimate. And microclimate is our local area climate. So it enables us to have the tools to be able to assess what's happening and be able to reasonably predict what is eventuating from a weather perspective. Because the Weather Bureau, as I mentioned before, they talk in generalities. Whereas if you want to understand what's going on and you can see things evolving and certain clues coming into line, so to speak, you can tick a few boxes and all of a sudden you'll know what's happening. So the first formal point to come out of this book is that we need to interpret how the clouds look. It makes sense. I thought clouds are clouds. So as I said before, I probably missed that vital day at school where we did a lesson on all the different clouds and what their names are and what they mean. But this author is able to break it down in a simplistic form, which makes it easy to understand. And he says that by understanding the cloud formations that start to develop, you're in a better position to be able to predict what is going to happen to the weather. Because clouds can tell you what's happening in the air above us, the water and the temperature, because clouds just don't materialise from nothing. There is a formula or some elements that need to occur so that the clouds can form, so to speak. So the author doesn't take us into the detail in terms of all the cloud types, but he says that there are 3 big cloud families, 3 unique cloud families, and by understanding these cloud families, we'll be in a good position. The 3 cloud families are named Cirrus, Stratus, and Cumulus. Cirrus, Stratus, and Cumulus. The Cirrus Clouds are the cotton candy and feather sort of clouds. It's the comma with the trailing tail. I'll have to look it up on the internet to see what it looks like. And with these cirrus clouds, the longer the tail, the stronger the wind. So when they multiply, those clouds, when they multiply, there's a strong chance of bad weather with this type of cloud formation. Another cloud family is called the Stratus Clouds. And they're those flat white clouds that fill up the sky. They're just grey. It's like a grey old day, a grey sky. But the interesting thing about these clouds is that they move slowly. And chances are, when you have these sort of cloud formations, the weather won't change all that much. So whatever is currently happening will continue to happen for the foreseeable future based on this cloud type, because there's not much movement So these clouds indicate stability. And the third family of cloud, or type of cloud, is called the cumulus cloud. And they result from warm air rising from the ground, and they tend to have a flat bottom and big bulges on top. And these sorts of clouds indicate instability. So I've got two tracks here. I've got one going that way and one going this way. I'll just follow the top one. I think they may join together. I'll just keep an eye out so I can make sure I can head back. So when these cumulus clouds start to build and they get taller and taller, and the lower clouds, the lower level clouds combine with the higher level clouds, that's when showers are imminent or maybe following. So there you go. The next lesson from this book, from this author, is where we talk about the different winds. And we learn that winds are strongly linked with clouds and other environmental factors. So one feeds the other, and they work together. So winds are caused when a warm front collides with a cold front. So a high weather system, a high pressure weather system, combines with a low pressure weather system. And that causes instability and it causes wind. And I learnt something new again. There are three types or three families of wind. There's a ground wind, a main wind, and a high wind. And these winds are different, but it's important to understand them, because by understanding the different winds, you're in a position to know what's happening and what's causing what. The ground wind moves the cirrus clouds, and it blows really, really high. I'm just coming up to a road here. Let's see where it comes out. So the ground wind moves the cirrus clouds and blows really high. They're really high winds. The main wind is the wind which impacts most people, and it normally blows south to north, and it's the one that makes the trees, the leaves in the trees rustle, and the wind that blows the leaves, the papers, and everything along the ground. So that's what we have there in terms of. So this is called the Crescent Nature Trail. So we've got winds which impact our weather, and the last point that I'll go through from this book is that there are other elements from nature, such as animals and or extreme weather, that can teach us essential things. Animal behaviour. I guess animals to a certain extent, birds, insects, I guess even humans. I know that when the weather is about to change, there are humans, there are people who get certain pains, and they can always say, well, I think the weather's going to change because my hip hurts or my knee hurts or my joints hurt or something. But the author here is saying that because the weather is impacted by pressure, by winds, by other things that work in conjunction with each other, they also influence the animals and people around us in some ways. So what we're saying here is that animal behaviour can be used to predict the weather. For example, when it's getting windy, spiders will spin smaller webs. Birds will fly into the wind as opposed to with the wind. So depending on how a bird is flying may indicate what's happening to the weather or what's about to happen to the weather. Or another one here is if birds go really, really high, it means that a storm could be approaching. So once again, interesting things to learn, interesting things to incorporate into our inventory of skills. And one of the beauties of Jim's 5am Club is, as I say often, is that I'm just an emissary. I'm just a messenger. All I'm doing is taking material that other people have published and using that to, empower each and every one of us with knowledge that we can incorporate into our skill set and use it to, to learn and to assist us in living a better life. So what we've just learned here is that nothing presents itself unannounced. Everything is inextricably intertwined, including the weather. So through understanding cloud patterns, through understanding the different ways the wind acts and how it's sourced, by understanding there could be a trail going through there, but I won't risk it. It'll be dark in half an hour, so I'll just head back and then head back to the dam. So all of these things are really interesting, and it just goes to show that that people of previous generations, people who lived on the land, people who had an indigenous sort of background, who relied on the land, were more observant and were able to understand these nuances in terms of how the weather operates and how change comes about, so that they could protect themselves, protect their families, and use it to their benefit. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining me on this episode of Jim's 5am Club, late in the afternoon on Sunday. It's Sunday, and I'm just walking through the bush here and delivering, I think this is my sixth vlog for the day. I really enjoy my vlogging, and I've generated well over 1,100, and I think this is probably 1,139 in English, and I've done about 70 in Greek. I'll keep on going as long as I can find material, as long as I can learn. I will try and teach, I'll try and pass it on, because as we've said before, by passing it on, we're learning it to a better and deeper level. So, wishing everybody a happy Sunday evening. We've got the tennis finals on, I think, tomorrow. So the Indian Wells, where none of the big guns in the women's nor the men's have made it through to the final, which just goes to show that there is nobody currently who is head and shoulders above the competition, like we've had in other years, where we've had Djokovic, Rafa and Federer, and in the women's, Serena Williams. So it's going to be like that for a while, I think, because there is just nobody who stands out, nobody who is capable of just grinding away tournament after tournament and grinding their opponents into the ground. Anyway, I'm heading down the hill now, so we'll chat again. Bye for now, and I'll come to you from a different location with a different message of empowerment at some point during the week. Take care, and bye for now.